And interested in something that I feel like is very important to us, becoming more so every year. Last week I had part one. Part one dealt mostly with what decisions have to be made immediately, maybe within a week or two of the person passing, all the way to, do we have directions for what that person wished to have done with their estate? And we talked about wills a little bit, about trusts, but a lot about what if you don't have either one. And so I just want to say, some of you may have been with me last week. Were there any big takeaways that you felt like you walked out of here going, oh, I really understand that, and that's something I intentionally want to handle?
That your executor had to be in Texas.
That's an interesting, that
That
the executor
with me.
has to live in Texas, or if they do not, they have to hire an agent to represent them in the probate process. And that was a fortuitous thing I realized, because my children do not live in Texas. So we had to go a different direction, and we did go with the trust option. Was there anything else?
Is that true of most states?
I really don't know. You know, every state is different to some degree in their rules and regulations for this process called probate. So what I provided to you was specific to Texas, because it was not within the scope of an hour and a half to talk about any other states. So what I hope you also heard me say was, have the conversation with your loved ones, hopefully before they are incapacitated. Because once that happens, sometimes that's a very difficult thing to have. And once you know their wishes, have they written their wishes down in any form? And primarily, you hope that there is a will and that there is an executor named for that will. And hopefully that executor is someone that the family is going to be willing to follow and work with. And then the third thing, I guess, is, where are the documents kept that you will need to have to move forward in going to probate, and or the trustee will need to complete the trust? Where are those things kept? Because if those things are not easily found, there's a whole other level of anxiety created for your family to even start to move forward. And I know, with the limited experience I've had with having family members pass, it is a difficult time for me to think logically. I seem to get stuck in feeling like time stands still for a bit. And then once that initial grief passes, I'm able to think. But at first, it's not easy. And it's a time that people get their feelings hurt real easily. And so all of that first topic is really important. And as I've said, if you don't have that information, Patrece can give it to you through her email. So today, I'm going to talk about a slightly different topic, and that is the digital part. And I'm sure a lot of you are like me. You didn't grow up with a computer or a cell phone or any of that paraphernalia, and you've learned a little bit as you needed to know. Whereas my children, and yours probably, or grandchildren now, are learning it because it's part of who they are. And so we call them digital natives. You and I are digital immigrants. And I learn what I need, but I don't seem to retain what I need unless I use it often. And I do know some things about the brain, and what we learn through our eyes, our ears, our hands, our doing. But we have to practice what that is consistently, or that learning is very unstable and it disappears quickly. So what I keep doing is saying, do you remember? Did you get something out of this? So I may continue to do that as we go through this. So this is called organization of the gift of having time, energy, and relief to those who oversee our estate when we're not here. So, first of all, I always have goals. I state the goals really more for myself than anyone else, because at the end of my presentation, I revisit in my mind or on my PowerPoint and say, did I address those goals? So here today, we're hopefully going to understand what are digital footprints, how to manage our online presence right now, and how to handle it once we're gone. What will our our loved ones be able to do with it? I'm going to also talk about organizing our passwords, our online accounts, our contact lists for our own use now and for those who will need it later. Then what happens to our pets if they happen to outlive us? And finally, decluttering. What do we do with the stuff we have when our children have made it very obvious, very clear they do not want it? So let's see what we can do, and if I answer all of this. So let's talk first about what are digital footprints and what is a digital asset. Last week, we talked about assets being the things of value that we have, like our personal property, our home. Those are called real property, like real estate related. And we have personal property like our car, and like our jewelry, or artwork, if you have it. All of that is personal property. This is called digital footprint, but it is different from a digital asset. So I will say that a digital asset is those things that I have really no understanding about. And that will be Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency, digital software codes, digital music, non-fungible tokens. I don't have a clue, really. And other kinds of code. A lot of it is called intellectual property. It doesn't exist anywhere except somewhere in the cloud, perhaps, or in your head. Blockchain, which is a word that we hear a lot, is a digital ledger that is used to track all these transactions that are happening. And evidently, it's very secure because nothing can be changed without the consensus of the network. And do not know detail about that because it's not something I need. So if you're involved in that, please look for it and try to get a better understanding. So I will not say digital asset, because to people who understand that, they're going to go, that's not right. You have the wrong information about what a digital asset is. So we will have to use the digital footprint. And what it is, of course, is searching for information. It's posting stuff on social media. When we make a purchase, when we order our groceries to be delivered, when we are checking the weather, activating closing accounts, completing surveys. Oh dear, I seem to get a survey every time I go somewhere to eat. Sharing articles and photos. Those are going to be our digital footprint. Now, I did not know how a digital footprint works, so here's it. A digital footprint is trackable because when we go to a website, it notifies the website of our IP address. An IP address is a long string of numbers that identifies our device. It is provided by our ISP, and that's the Internet Service Provider. Whether, some people have Frontier, some people have Spectrum, I don't know who all, we have multiple ISP options. And honestly, if you change providers, your IP address will change. So just letting you know that it's controlled by your provider. When you go onto this multitude of websites and you are leaving your footprint, which is your IP address, it carries a lot of information with it. So what kind of information? Well, obviously your whereabouts, your name, anything that you've shared on social media is fair game. So they will often know your birthday and your anniversary and your children's birthdays and a whole lot of other information that we don't realize is being associated with our IP address. So whenever we're going on something, we're leaving a footprint there. Who wants to know our footprint? Who carries this? Well, marketers, our credit card issuers, the advertising group, the law enforcement, anyone who wants to know where we are and what we're doing and what we're looking at. All of these types of organizations are interested. Obviously, marketers take in this information and sell it to organizations that feel like they need to know. So it is a very high dollar environment for them to have that. Okay. And because I'm talking about your IP address, I am going to just talk briefly about URLs and domains and a little bit of this, because I did not know it until I started exploring this and knowing that I'm leaving a footprint every time I go onto a website. So you probably already know about HTTP and HTTPS and the difference. The HTTPS is indicating that you are sending a secure request to a website. Okay? It is encrypted. The thing that you want to see is that when you go onto the website, and I did this for Grapevine, GoGrapevine.com, that I saw this padlock symbol just to the left up there in the address bar. So this padlock means that I've sent, the HTTPS says I'm sending the request to the GoGrapevine.com securely. The padlock is saying they are receiving my request and they are also secure. So sending a secure request involves two things. To know that HTTPS is an important abbreviation in that it's called the URL, and that my padlock is saying they received it and they are secure. Occasionally, you might see an X or an exclamation in a triangle, and it may be red or it may not, or the one of the other may be red, you know. And what that is indicating is the site that you sent to is not secure. And actually, when I first went on Grapevine Rec, I got an unsecure, I got a little, I don't know if it was an exclamation bar or not. I clicked on it And it said that the photo was not secure. I didn't know that you could have an insecure photo, but unsecured photo, but evidently that was the problem with that. But the Go Grapevine Active Adult website is a secure website. And I know that because I sent it with an HTTPS and it was received with a padlock. So those two things are things you want to look for when you do go searching on the web. I will say, for those of you maybe know or not, this whole thing right here is called the URL. That is a URL. The part that's right here after the slash gograpevine.com is called the domain. Just so you know, domain. And of course, this is the part of that domain that you are being redirected to. So now I know maybe it was something that would be important for you. Another thing to know about security is if you go, let's say anywhere outside your home, and you want to look up something, especially maybe it's financial, go to your bank's website or something, be very sure that you are not on public Wi-Fi. And most of the time, my phone allows me to go there safely when I'm not there because I'm using my cellular data. And some people really don't want to use their cellular data because it's limited for them. So that's something that they may think, oh, where's the Wi-Fi? Where's the Wi-Fi I can jump onto, like Starbucks or something? And that may not be a secure website if you're in public Wi-Fi. So you be real careful about where you're going when you're not at home with your own Wi-Fi, okay? And just a little thing about security with systems and devices. So keep a clean machine. And no, I'm not talking about wipe it off. I'm talking about installing updates. I was very lackadaisical in installing updates that came especially on my phone. And I thought, oh, I'll get around to it because, it's inconvenient for me to stop what I'm doing and letting it go through that update process. And then it came to be very obvious, especially when it said Apple users, there's an update, you need to do it now. And it turns out that usually those updates are fixing problems that have arisen within that environment, that particular Apple or Microsoft or whatever, and they're trying to get it fixed before it creates this huge issue for people, because they would certainly rather be proactive than reactive after something's happened. So install those updates when you see them. The other one is enable multi-factor authentication. Maybe called two-step authentication. Multi just means there's different steps you go through. So whenever you can, use the multi-factor authentication. Yes, sometimes it's a little bit inconvenient for you, but it is a huge benefit to preventing hackers. Because they are not out to get things that are really hard for them. There's too many other low-hanging fruit to be obtained when possible. So that's an important thought. Use long, unique passwords. And that means not just one and you copy it through every account. That's not it. Every account needs its long, unique password. And we're going to talk more about how to make them. The third one is use a password manager. That may or may not be something you're interested in. We'll talk more about what they are. And finally, back it up. Do you have a backup system? Do you use the cloud or do you use a external hard drive? What is it you're using to back up your information? Do something. And yes, it may be that you have to ask your grandchildren. Okay, I said we'll talk a bit about passwords. So looking at the little green chart, do you know what those are? They're passwords.
Most common one.
You are right. They are 10 or 15 of the most commonly used passwords. And do hackers know about this list? Oh, yes, they do. They are very aware of this list. And so if they see a potential, individual that they are going to try to hack, then they're going to try some of these. Actually, they aren't physically, the person or the hacker is not physically sitting over there trying to make different combinations. They have machines that are using bots and they are generating millions of possible passwords so fast that they have many opportunities to hack into people. So these are things you want to avoid. Do you see anyone that do you know where some of these come from? How do we come up with, how did people start out? Probably years ago, not now, but do you know what QWERTY is? Yes, it's the letters that go up on the top row of your computer. So it was real easy at that time just to punch those letters, right? And obviously password, that's been around for a long time. And some of these are the number of the letter, the number of the letter. So they were used because they were very easy to see and remember. And we may have started that way, but we need to move forward. Here are some things that hackers look for. Remember, I told you that they get the IP address, your IP address, and they get a whole lot of information off of that. They're going to get your email address, your cell phone, common phrases, of course, they all know, common words that sometimes you put a number in place of a letter, as in the case with October. You see that it got changed just a bit, but that's very common. The computer bots can figure that out quickly. If you have a pet or family name that you like to use in your passwords, like your spouse, your pet, your child, those are going to be information that the hacker can get easily. Also, significant dates, as we mentioned. And there is something called the dark web, which I have not gone to, but the dark web has a lot of information in old passwords that are left that are no longer being used. They know that we often change one letter, one number in our password to try to generate another password. So they're going to have, I would say, clues in how to get hacked into our devices and our accounts. Sometimes they give you password reset questions, and you're going to probably use, they'll ask you your name. Instead of giving your real name, why not try to give them a fake word? Not even has to be a name, it could be a fake word that they will not be able to track or use. Like if they ask your maiden name and you have a color you like and you put pink. Pink has nothing usually, not a name. So that's something that's going to go, oh, this is not going to work for us. So the hacker will leave us alone. And I just want to mention phishing. And phishing is when you get an email that looks legitimate, but in that email, it may not be totally legitimate, but it comes from someone you know. But they're going to ask for you to give them information about something that you think that doesn't sound right, that doesn't look right. I don't think that person would ask that. Or my bank is not going to ask me for my account number. My gosh, they have it. Or my name, or any of it, or my social security. My bank has that. They don't need to ask me, neither does the government. And so those are phishing scams. So in a lot of times there will be a link in the email, do not go there. So just avoid the link, and I would just delete the email myself, okay? Now, here's a little bit about the strategies that we are now talking or using to make these long, unique passwords. What is long enough? Well, at least 12, but more often 16. It seems that the length of your password is a bigger predictor of prevention of hacking than the number of letter versus characters in a shorter password. So the length is actually the biggest predictor of whether your password is strong. It doesn't follow the keyboard, obviously. It's not based anywhere on your personal information. And you have to do this unique password for every different account. Years ago, I was very guilty, not that many years ago, actually, of using the same password for multiple accounts because I thought it was pretty long and unique. Well, what's the problem? If a hacker gets into one of them and it works, you know what they do first? They try any account that you may have to see if you've repeated it. So you let one get hacked, you may have let the whole thing get hacked. So most password are requiring some upper lower case letters, some numbers, and some symbols. Here are some characters and symbols that are used, and here you can actually make an emoticon with the combination of some of these characters or symbols. So the general advice is think of a song, a phrase, or a verse that you can easily remember. Okay? Think of something. And I know you're going, I cannot think that. Remember, we're just going to practice it for just a second. Well, I have an example for you. So my phrase is 4 kangaroos hang out in golf courses in Australia.
I love it.
Now, those of you that know me well know I do have a daughter in Australia, and I have been there. And the first chance we got to visit, they took us to a little resort, and they did have a golf course. And I don't play golf, but I can drive the golf cart fine. So I drove, and my husband and my son-in-law hit some golf balls. Actually, they did try to play. They were playing. And we got to one hole, and it was my first time to actually get out and see, it's called a mob, actually, a mob of kangaroo standing at a little water pond. You know how they have those water things. And it was early in the morning, and I thought, oh, they just woke up. They're getting a good drink or, something, or munching on grass, whatever kangaroo do. And it was amazing. That was my first interaction. I didn't have to interact with them really, but my first time to see them in real life. And knowing that I did not want to get close enough to try to irritate them, because they're not always thrilled with people, and they can box. They fight like that. So anyway, we left them alone. So I thought, okay, 4, and I don't know if it was 4, it doesn't matter, 4 kangaroos. And I didn't want to start with the T, because a lot of times the is a very common first word. So I thought, I'm going to just start with a number. So 4 kangaroos hang out in golf courses in Australia. So what changed when I got down to 4KS, HGOTINGF, all of that? What did I do? You see it.
First class letters.
I did. I did not want to use the word kangaroo. And you'll see I did not want to use Australia because those two are very commonly associated. And so I am using a technique, obvious technique to me, is first and last letter. I tried to go backwards. You know how Leonardo da Vinci wrote? He was left-handed. And he realized that if he was left-handed, he could write from the right to the left. And so he wrote mirror writing. So I've always been fascinated by Leonardo da Vinci. And so, oh, I'll try that. Oh my gosh, what an exercise in mental concentration. And I thought, no, because that's the problem, is if it goes too hard, then we make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, it'll time us out, or it'll say, you don't get to keep doing this. So anyway, so I changed it to the first and last letter. Now what I wanted to do is, once again, I'm going to try to think of some of these characters to replace some of the letters that make sense to me. And so I kept my 4, and then I went, okay, KS, and I used the $sign for S, and yes, that's common. I would say be careful with it. Hackers know that we do this. And then I went, oh, hang. So I put the H in a parrot, like you're hanging something. And then I went, out is, instead of the letter O, I used the number 0. And the T, I put the $sign. And then G, F, C, S, and then N, N, capital N is for the word in, and N, and then I don't want to put AU, because that's a hint. So I use the ampersand and the U. So I've now hopefully got a string of letters and symbols that would be much more difficult to decode, and that nobody wants to spend that much time on that. So what I'd like for you to do is think of, let's just try, 3 or 4 words that are unrelated. Try to get as much unrelated as you can. Take a minute and write 3 or 4 words that are words that you could remember if you had to.
Is a lyric from a song a good idea?
Make it one of the lesser known lyrics.
Yeah, I was gonna try Bible verses. And I thought, oh, Vicki, did the computers know every Bible verse? And so I did not use that. But if you can think of like a color and a dog breed, or type of car, something that are unrelated, that you may go, okay, I had a green car when I had Bozo, my dog. Is that something you could remember? So the more unrelated it is, the less likely it will be hacked. Now, I realize I could say, make it a whole lot longer, but we're just practicing here. So are you able now to take the first and last letter? Or maybe you go, I don't want to take the first and last letter. Maybe I'll take the second and the last letter. That could even be a little bit more difficult, couldn't it? So you're thinking, how could I make that something I remember, but not so hard to remember that I won't make mistakes? And if you can figure out a way to put a emoticon in there, great. I've never used emoticons. I didn't even think about that when I was looking at it. How do you make these? Oh, sorry. I thought I. Sorry. So are you getting this? Thinking, "Oh, okay, I can do this." And obviously, it needs to be longer than what you're starting. But you're getting the idea of how do I make my phrase or my words into something that's meaningful to me that I can remember. So what do you think? It just takes a little time, right? It just takes a little time, but that's really what we need to do is get away from using entire words to letters and then some symbols and some numbers that are meaningful within our phrase. So it will look like it's very unrelated. Okay? So that is what I would say about passwords. Do we still make some? You bet we have to make them. You're right. Now, how do we remember them? How do we remember these passwords? Well, I'll show you just a little graph here that obviously the graph shows us that the most common way is just we remember them. We try to memorize them. But as you see, when we're making long, unique passwords, our ability to memorize that is getting reduced significantly. So 80%, 80 or some odd percent say they've memorized them. Do they use them most often? Yeah, 65% still say that's what they use. I can't imagine that that's going to be able to sustain them because over the last 2 or 3 years, every time I go to a new doctor, I have to set up a new account, and that becomes overwhelming. Every time I go to a retail place, because I don't go to the store, I buy online, I have to have a new password for that. So I cannot imagine that you could keep that here. So they write them on the paper. They write them on paper. It's really what a lot of people do. And sometimes they leave it out or they write it on a sticky note and they stick it to the computer monitor. So that is not going to work because you don't have room for all of that. And you lose it. You don't know where you put it. And the dog ate it. But heaven forbid that, you know, somebody walked in, and in my case, I just live with my husband. And we don't have a lot of traffic in our house. But if you have a lot of people coming in and out, then it could walk away. Save it in save it on your computer hard drive. Once again, does your computer have a password on it? Or does anybody just go in and pull it up? Save it in an internet browser. Microsoft will save your passwords for you. Or the trend is to use what we call password manager, which I'm about to talk about. And then there are a few other methods, and I wouldn't know what they would possibly be, but the majority of us are in that process of we have them written down. Now what do we do with them? Because we can't easily share them with anyone like our children who may need them after we're gone. So there are 3 methods for keeping the passwords that I know of. And the first one is to continue to use paper and pencil with the utmost care of where you leave the list. The second one is a hybrid paper pencil, but you also have it on a spreadsheet. We use Excel spreadsheet because we have Microsoft on our computer, so we have Excel, and I'm learning to get better at it. So I have it on my little sheets, and then I put it in the computer, and it's easier, of course, to make changes or updates or add new businesses and new doctors to the spreadsheet as opposed to my sheet of paper, but I actually have both. And sometimes it's more trouble to go in to find my spreadsheet, so I do it on the paper, and then I need to remind myself to change it in the spreadsheet. So it's an organizational consideration. If that's a lot of effort, then you may not want the hybrid sheet, the two ways of doing it. It's, I guess, my way of dipping my big toe into the internet world. Okay. And I understand that if someone wanted to come in and steal my computer, that because it has password protection on it, and my password sheets have password protection. So if they want to go in and go to all that much effort, that's something, we'll cross that bridge if that happens. And then the third one is, like I said, is called password manager. And the password manager can be on your machine, your browser. Like I said, Microsoft will do this. But there are actual password managers that are built in multiple layers of security that we'll see what that involves. Backing up, this password template, this is just the paper pencil thing. This is just a template. It looks like, you can do it in Microsoft easily, an Excel sheet. And you have your lines and your rows, and you can do all of that on paper pencil. The positive thing is you don't have to have a computer. And the second one is it will never be hacked that way. Now, it could be stolen, but it won't be hacked off the internet. You need to have legible handwriting and accurate copying skill. You cannot be messy. You must be willing to update it occasionally. And then I personally, in that last column where it says additional comments or notes, I put the date of it. And by the way, I use pencil. I use the pencil to do this. So if I make a silly mistake, I don't have to, make a mess of the whole row. I can erase it.
That password block image is different than what you have here.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because it's black and white versus
Yes.
color.
You can't
Okay.
see the column, the names of the,
Okay.
and it's totally different.
And this is like a template off the internet. So I didn't run that for you because I am not supposed to. That is something that they would prefer that you download and probably pay for. So I'm just showing you what it could look like. So did I? Okay, I thought I had a template, a picture of this template. as
You
well.
do. You do.
Oh, I do. Okay, I think maybe if you back up one.
It's black and white versus color.
Okay, yeah, and guys, I always print black and white because I don't want the rec center to use color. So, okay. So this is just, if you want to keep a record of your passwords, this is a type of password log you can use. And like I said, you've got to keep it in a safe place. You don't leave it out on top of your kitchen table all the time, unless you walk out of the house, you need to put that away. All right, and I do have this. I did start with this. And my categories were to get organized by page. Page for computer and internet passwords, a page for financial. And I think I may have food, health, and house on the same page because some of them aren't as lengthy and as numerous. And so these were mine. It's just suggestions. There's no magic or requirement that you use that. Okay, so that's just your paper pencil. Now this one is showing you what it could look like if you use the spreadsheet method along with. So what you could do is use a password manager that looks similar to this, that you use your Office Excel sheets. You can use Google Sheets if you use Google products. That you can make that. And if you don't know how to make it, get your child or your grandchild to help you, because that's something they do know how to do usually, especially, if they're older. So you make your passwords, you keep them there. And like I said, when you write a new password, I put the date, or I even put the date when I put it on the computer. Because if I've got both of these systems going, I want to know, did I update to the other? So it does create more work on your part, more organizational time and skill to keep up with these two systems. So be sure you keep them updated, or you will find that they don't work. Now, this is called the Digital Password Manager. And what is a password manager? Well, it is an online service that stores your sensitive data by encrypting it in a way that prevents hackers from getting the access to your accounts. I don't really understand how they encrypt it, but they do. They know they have programs that do that, and it becomes a long string of letters, characters, numbers that are probably even longer than 12 or 16 character long. And these password managers can not only keep your passwords, you may put your own password in it, or you may allow this manager to change your password into that long series of unrecognizable numbers, letters, and characters. But that you will have to put all of your trust in this password manager, because you, of course, will never want to try to keep record of what, and I think they change it every time they send a request that, you need to go to a website and it says, what's your password? They're going to encrypt it and send it, and it's going to be different. So you cannot keep track of it yourself. You will have to rely on them to be safe and honorable with your information. And yes, it does cost money. Well, I will say that there are some password managers that they have a free version. Now, their free versions may be what you need, but they may be, we say, less robust. And that means they don't have all the bells and whistles, but they don't cost you anything either. So it just depends on what their free version is. And naturally, they're going to offer you many opportunities to upgrade that. So keep in mind that you have to be aware, free may not be the environment you want. You can also keep your credit cards, your bank accounts, your identification documents. Somehow, I've not gone that far. So anyway, it does all this for you. And the pro is you do, I guess you got to call it a pro. You do have a master password to the manager, and they will not keep your password for you, and you must keep it. Either if you write it down, fine, but you also need to memorize it. Is what we're finding now, that a lot of us use our phone as our computer, and that we use it when we're out doing different things. So we aren't in a location where we have it written down for us. So this master password needs to really be something that you can remember, and that maybe you have that phrase for, and that you've done some replacing that makes good sense to you. Because the password manager companies do not keep your password. They will send you a password recovery kit, or at least mine did. But since I've not had to use the recovery kit, I'm not sure how it works. But they will not be able to tell you, nor will they be able to tell your children if you're no longer here what it is. So it's real important that you know that. And it will also help you analyze, like I've used my own passwords, and then I haven't allowed them to make total new ones. And it will help you find that you may have some weak or reused ones that need to be fixed. And the big deal is that you can share your password manager account with someone in your family who needs to have this information if you are no longer here or even incapacitated. So if that person has, and you don't have to share everything, but you do, share what you think they need, because you make these vaults, little, containers, and you contain certain information, and you can share a vault and not share everything. So it is a way to give this information to your heirs, and they will be able to handle all of the issues that will come up. The cons are, it could be hacked. It could be. And there have been a few, very, very few instances of hacking, but the ones that have been hacked have said it never really gave out people's accounts, but something a little bit less devastating. That they do encrypt it, and it's called zero knowledge architecture. Means they don't keep your information, and they use multi-factor authentication. So a lot of times, it's your face, or in my phone, I got one a year or two ago, and I put facial recognition on my phone, and that's fairly secure. Can it be hacked? Yes. There are ways that hackers can take a photo of you and create a system that will hack it. It turns out the most, the strongest way of protecting is with eye recognition. And that recognition not only takes in consideration the shape and color and all that of your eye, but the internal structure of your eye. And that makes it almost impossible for hackers to create a copy of it. But it is very expensive, that kind of encryption in that machine, to create it and to read it is super expensive right now. So most companies and places don't have it available. Not that it won't, because we're constantly trying to figure out how to outsmart the hackers, but they're on the turn trying to figure out how to outsmart the people that are keeping us safe too. So, and then the password managers can scan the dark web to look for the breaches to our personal data. So there are reasons to consider the password manager. The biggest one is, can they possibly be hacked? They possibly could, but they're taking every opportunity to fix and prevent that. So what is your level of, number one, your level of trust and your convenience? And you have to make that decision whether you want to write it down, or you want to do it both, or you want to let the digital environment help with that. So I'm going to stop here for a moment, and I'm going to give you a chance to take a break. So we're going to move now to how do you create the information besides just passwords? And this is called a contact sheet. This was made with Microsoft Excel on the computer. And so I just have some examples here of what could be on it. And obviously, when someone passes away, trying to remember who all you need to contact and where their phone numbers are can be a real challenge. So it could be that you name your family, you name the friends you have, and if you are still working, name the people that you would work with. That's not all that could go on it by any means. So here are some labels and some categories that you could make for yourself that would be incredibly helpful. I am not, when you look back over something you made 4 or 5 days ago, you go, why did I put that there? And this part about legal docs, I am not sure what I was thinking, because those are not contacts per se, but they would fall under the professionals that would have that information. So this is, of course, not a complete list, but it's what I could think of the day I did the slide. So you may have others, and yes, Grapevine Rec is right there with them.
On the legal docs, there's a lot of VA forms you need.
So you need to have a VA number. And see, since I'm not a military survivor or dependent or any of that, I don't think about the VA as much. But there are, let me see, what did I do?
Government services.
Yes, service organizations, you may not be a volunteer, but maybe they were part of the service organization that you would need to know. It would be very helpful. And of course, all the government services are helpful for further down the road. So you could easily make this a sheet for yourself and personalize it. And there's more. So, and obviously I have 2 daughters that do not live in the state. So I realized that once they, if something should happen to me sooner than later, unexpected happens, that they would need to know, besides my passwords, where are the bills? In years before, we all got to pay the bills, and that was somewhat easier to track. And now that's not true. So where are the bills going to be coming from, and how do I pay them? And how often will I be getting them? And so a spreadsheet is very important for that, because if you don't handle it, then you get late fees. And that just adds more issue. So what can we do? So here is my little bill tracking system. Again, it's just made on Excel, and there's nothing magic about it, but it worked for me. So I thought, well, how do I organize this for me? And I thought, well, how do I get my bills now? And so I listed them by mail, the normal yellow old-fashioned mail. Then how do I get some of my bills come through my email system? So I put some of that. Some of them are through my bill pay system, through my bank that I get the bills. And some of them are through a provider's portal, like my doctors send me a notice by email that there's a bill that needs to be paid. And then some of them are auto pay. They get paid right off of my credit card. They get charged to my credit card. And then some of them get sent to my checking account, my account. So I try to think of all the ways that I get my bills. And then I tried to list the ones that I could remember. And of course, this is not by no means everything. And where I could put it. Then in my next column, I put, how do I pay them? So that my children will know, well, she pays them with a check. Or she pays them through, she's got to schedule it on her bill pay in her bank. Or she's got to pay it through the portal. Or she's got to go to the credit union or a online bill pay through the credit union. So, or it's a bank credit card, and I need to look in they are going to send me, well, they will send me an email to remind me, but it's going to appear in the bill pay only. So I have all these ways I can pay them. And then I kind of thought, well, it would be helpful if I told someone about when they're due. So they can look and go, okay, well, this is the first of the month or the first quarter. I need to remember to look for mom's dental and vision plan coming through, or I need to be aware that it'll be recharged. So I don't want to keep getting those charges. I need to cancel that. And then how often? And so that was my system. I don't intend to say that's the only system, but it will help my children substantially to not have to spend a lot of time and effort figuring it out. And you could just build yours. And this one is miscellaneous account information. Some of it is duplicated in other contact lists, but it just basically says, especially the social media thing, we don't get charged for Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or to my knowledge, we don't. So anyway, that was just, there's no, you still have to log in, and you will have to get rid of it, which we'll talk about in a minute, but that was interesting information that I just thought, I'll just put it there. So what happens to all these numerous accounts once we're gone? So I'll first mention, as we know, there are a lot of things that are online that we may share with others. And I'm talking about paid subscriptions to like Netflix and all the other streaming video groups, all of the social medias, all of, Apple provides families with subscriptions to music. You may buy, books for your Kindle. Where does all of that get taken care of? And that is an ongoing environment right now about if you have a family plan and the owner of the plan passes away, the primary way of looking at it right now is there's no right of survivorship. That if you delete the account for the primary owner of Apple Music, you've deleted everybody else's Apple Music. It is not there. So that is something you have to remember. Transferring accounts is generally not something that most entities really want to deal with. They want it closed, and then the remainder of the people get their own accounts. That's really what they're going for. So you do not want to just go in and delete all of these accounts that your mother or grandmother, mother would have had before you understand what the policy may be. Because once you delete something, it's irretrievable. And when you want, we're going to delete it now, then you're going to need some documents usually to delete things. You can suspend stuff, but you aren't going to delete it usually without some effort. And you have to contact this group and talk to them and ask what they're going to need, which could be, an obituary, a death certificate, and then they got to know who you are. So you will have to provide information. But basically, just don't delete digital accounts till you are very sure you don't need them now again. Yes.
This is a lot of trouble. Unless you're attempting fraud, you're using it for fraudulent reasons. Why can't you just close an account? Not
Well,
say this person is deceased or whatever, just close it.
Well, because first of all, they're not going to they're not wanting to delete an account without knowing who that person is that's asking them to do it. And if you are in actuality the person who has the power to do that. So sometimes they're only going to let the executor close the account and they're going to have to prove that they're an executor. I mentioned last week that when you're the executor, the court gives you this thing called a letter of testamentary. Well, it's called letters of testamentary. And it's proof that you are the executor and that you have the power to handle all the financial and all the issues that go along with closing accounts or transferring property or selling property. That's an important thing to have when you are the executor, or if you have, in my situation, a trustee. So these groups are very reluctant to just let anybody say, oh, close that account, because they don't know who you, what, you know.
But if I have all of my husband's information,
Yeah.
it's simple to just go on Facebook and.
But then-
post it.
Okay, but you have to log in and you can probably close it as if it were him.
Right.
I'm talking about when people have passed away and they cannot do that unless, yes, your children, they have your login information and be able to close your account. But if they don't have it, that's where the problem is.
Okay.
Even credit card, they want us to do the name on the card, not unless they talk to my wife, they cannot talk to me.
Yeah.
That's all.
You're not going to just trust that anyone that calls them
Yeah.
is going to be the one that that has the responsibility and the power to close things without verification in some way. So,
Well, most things are closed online, so you're
Not
not talking
really.
to anybody.
Uh-uh.
Well, bank accounts or something like that. That's what I'm saying. If you could commit fraud by doing that, but you're not gonna fraud Facebook.
Unless your name is on bank account, you
Yeah.
can't close your.
Hey,
Facebook.
let's
All
look.
the time.
Let's look at this, because I've taken, let me see if it's the next one. Ah, here it is. I've taken the top 5 online entities and given you a brief synopsis of what has to happen to close their account. So first of all, if you're in Google, Google has over 270 products. So, and a couple of them you recognize: Google Drive, Chrome, YouTube, Android, Chrome Transmits, and Photos, all of that plus 200 more. And so they have an inactive accounts manager that you can use. You can say to them, if I would like for you to check on me if I don't use your accounts within a month and 3 months to a year and a half. So they have that limit. They're going to keep contacting you if you're not using it to make sure you're still alive. Okay, so you can say, I wish to participate that way. And you log into myaccount.google.com, inactive, and you set that limit. Okay, and so that's one way they're going to try to keep up with whether you're still here with us using their product. And if there's no activity and they're trying to contact you and there's still no contact, they may delete, or they may share it with a trusted contact if you have designated one in the settings. See the website for the details on how you do that. Okay? If you're with Facebook, Facebook will let someone go in and memorialize that account. And that means you can say that they have been, they're deceased, and people can go and read about that. But the person who is and this is called a legacy contact. I want to just thank Lydia for helping me know that there was such a thing as a legacy contact. And in Facebook and in Apple, they provide you this legacy contact if you go into your settings to actually designate that person. So with Facebook, that legacy can memorialize your account and keep it there. Or if you need to delete it, it has to be the executor or a immediate family member with a scan their photo and a death certificate. Or a durable power of attorney can do it with someone with that. And and the obituary or a memorial card. So it has processes for deleting an account as long as you are the durable power of attorney, or you are the executor, or you are an immediate family member with all this documentation. So you can delete Facebook. Amazon basically, the family may contact Amazon with a copy of the certified debt certificate. Okay? So there are a lot of things. Apple, you can have the legacy contact, as I mentioned. Of course, to help protect them, you're gonna have to know the password and account and the code to the phone, because you know how nowadays maybe you're online, but on laptop or PC, and it says we're going to send you a code. Well, they're sending it to your text messaging. So you now have to have the phone of the person who deceased and their PIN number so you can get into it. So there are things.
With the Apple phone, you don't have to know your password at all, because the fear is they could change it. But when you make the legacy through them, Apple actually gives that person an ID to go into that phone.
Okay, so Lydia is clarifying that legacy means they give them the legacy contact and ID number to go into the phone. That may circumvent having to have the phone and the PIN and all of that of the person that you're trying to delete. Okay, so I have, like I said, Leah told me about this last week, so I went in and created my legacy contacts, but that's as far as I got. And then Microsoft, basically, they're like, Google, they have so many very varied services that it will automatically close after 2 years of inactivity. But you've got to cancel the paid subscriptions prior to closing them. And if you want to do this as a family member, you need to contact Microsoft to do that. So all of this is kind of like an evolving situation with a lot of digital, because we are the first group of people that are needing deletion and legacies and all that to carry forward. Hey, we'll switch quickly to what happens, what can we do if a pet is going to outlive us? And, we talked last week about how important having a will is if you have minor children. Because without a will, the state gets to make a decision on where your children will go, which could be good, which might not always. So think about your pets being like, your children. Who is going to take good care of my pet? Who is going to have the energy to take them? Who is going to be able to take care of them financially? There are, lots of things to think about before, and did you ask them? Because sometimes we assume that, your sister will take your pets, and come to find out her children have cat allergies, and that is not going to work. So think about asking first. Now, what else can we do to make this easier for them? Well, obviously, we can give them a lot of information about our pet that will make the transition easier. And if you are able to provide some kind of financial resource for this individual family, that might make the whole adoption process go a bit easier. Because as we know, as our pets age, they become much more expensive. So that is, hopefully you have someone, your family or friend, who is a good match for your pet. Now, if none of that happens, sometimes if your pet falls within a breed, they're a close-knit group of people. I have a relative who has bull terriers and has for years, and shown them. That group of people are very close, and they might be able to take in one of these pets, or know somebody who would be reliable, because they're very careful about their breed. So there may be a group that can do that, or rescue people that just take whatever. And then, of course, the last thing would be donate them, give them to an animal shelter, which, you know, wouldn't be ideal, but it's better than not doing anything. So. And then we come to, which I've heard from my own children's mouth, we love you, Mom and Dad, but we don't love the stuff. Mom, Dad, all of this stuff is nice, but it's not nice for us because well, they're thinking of where they live right now, which is very minimal, and they don't have room for it. And, but I don't think they have the same emotional attachment we have to a lot of that because, I don't know, maybe it's a different situation that we grew up in. I know with my folks, everything seemed to have been passed down from the Mayflower. I'm joking. But it had to come to them through, you know, donation, well, or through the lineage of their family. And it meant something. And I now own a lot of that stuff. Like my grandmother's treadle sewing machine. Oh, I was thinking, okay, well, that's probably very historic. Well, come to find out, everybody's got their grandmother's sewing machine. So it's not as unusual and probably not valuable at all, except that, you know, I know it was used faithfully by my mother, no, my grandmother maybe. So anyway, here's a suggestion for what to do. First of all, get a plan. And I would say get a plan that you might find accomplishable in a couple days. So start with a room that's not full of stuff. And you go, okay, I'm going to get my trash and I'm going to put it in this big trash bag. And I'm going to get my recycle and I'm going to have a little box here for that. And then gifting, whomever I would think might gifted me. And then my donation pile. So I've got my piles. And now I'm going through a room that has minimal junk. And so I'm putting things in and okay, I get that. And I go, good job, Vicki. And I know what to do with each one of those piles. And the fact that I started small gives me that sense of I can do this accomplishment, that it's not that hard. Well, it could be, but it wasn't today. So that would be where I would start. And then I would go to the next room that might be a little more challenging and try the same situation, the piles, the box, and know where everything goes. Of course, then you got to deal with where do you put all this stuff that you're going to donate or that you are going to gift because it's still there. But it's at least you made progress, okay? And then declutter. Oh my gosh, it's easy for me to have a bunch of books, and I even have old handouts from courses I took. And I'm an old retired teacher, so I've got a lot of stuff left over from all the professional development programs I attended that I thought I can't, I'm going to need this someday. Well, the day is coming too quick, and so I can get rid of it, but it's hard. It's really hard. So decluttering and not saving all those magazines and all those.
Nobody wants your National Geographics.
No, they want my National Geographics or my teacher education magazines, which I have some still here. So realizing that needs to be put in the recycle bin if at all possible. All that. So the sentimental or treasured items, the reducing of that is hard, because you have that attachment and you hope that somewhere along the line your family will value that too. And that may be situational. So trying to get them to say, yes, Mom, I see why you want that or have kept that. I'll consider it. I had this cute little puddle duck, you know, from years ago that was given to my daughter, who's nearly 40, and you wind it up and it plays pretty little music. It was just a baby gift. And I'm having such a hard time saying, yeah, I can give that away. You know, there are a few things. Maybe someday she'll agree, but not right. And then minimizing. So in some people, they want to downsize a bit. And so they've got, can you envision, which I can, a living room, sofa, love seat, recliner. I mean, you've got all these pieces of furniture, and you have to decide, do I really need all of that now? Maybe, maybe not. Some of them are quite large. So you may want to, minimize the things that you have. And then my suggestion is, once you've gone through these rooms, it's kind of like me cleaning out my closet where my clothes are, is I'll go through and obviously I'll take out stuff that I haven't worn in 20 years, but then I do a second pass and I go, oh yeah, that's not going to fit, or that does not look good on a woman my age. So I'll get, and so I may have more than one pass through things and continue to downsize or minimize. And sell what you can. I'm not big on this because I don't trust selling things. So, but people do. I have a good friend who uses Facebook all the time, Facebook Marketplace. But here are a list of marketplaces or online methods that you could try to sell some of that stuff on. And of course, you can always go the garage sale route. And the newest way to get rid of stuff is there are many in our area. There are downsizing and decluttering and organizing companies that will send people out to organize your pantry for you, and it will all the way to clean up your house. So, and obviously that's a charge. So think about all of that and what you might find your level of involvement and how much you want to do. So I want to know, you don't have to answer me out loud, but I do want you to think about, what did you learn from this class? Because as a teacher, I went to many professional development courses in my lifetime, and I would walk out and someone asked me, what did I learn? I would go, I'm not quite sure I can put it into words because I don't know. And I'm just asking you to think about it. How do we leave our digital footprints? Are you going, yeah, I know how we leave them now. Can you tell a secure website if you see one? What are you looking for? Remember what you're looking at and what you're looking for. If you are going to create your passwords, what is it important for you to remember about passwords? Could you make them? When you go home today, could you make them? Next, what do we do to help our loved ones manage all our online accounts and our contacts when we're no longer here? Do you see that that could be helpful? Could you make your system? Could you give that to them? Okay. Could you handle a pet that might outlive you? Do you have a plan that you might think about? And then do you have ideas for ways to declutter and to get rid of the stuff that your children and family say they're not interested in? And it may not that you're getting rid of it today, but do you have a plan for what you can do in the next few years to move that direction? So if you can answer in your head at least 2 of these, I think, well, maybe it wasn't a total waste of time. If you can answer more than 2, I am going, good job, good job. And if you know a little bit about all 5 of them, good job. Because that's my goal, is that you walk out of here knowing more than you came into. And if any of these other opportunities are of interest to you, I will be doing arthritis and joint pain. And then finally, a combo of dental, hearing, and eyesight information on the 20th of October. So That's options if you are interested. And I just want to thank you. I want you to know that your presence here is encouraging to me, and that you have the possibility of sharing some of this information with your family and your friends and saying, okay, this is important, think about it. And the more that you think about it, or, have the conversation with them. All right, guys, we need to talk about this. Then they're going to maybe have that conversation eventually with their kids. So we'll pass it down. Thank you very much for this.